Hi.
Hey everybody.
Hey.
Welcome to another episode of Unfiltered and Intentional. Thanks for tuning in. We have a topic to talk about today, but before we talk about this topic that Liz is so excited to talk about, we're gonna go ahead and just tell Liz is gonna tell everybody what to do.
All right. So, everybody, I'm tired of telling you what to do. I'm kidding. I think that was my husband, not Loki. But listen, guys, thank you so much for joining us on Sunday nights. It means the world to us. To be a part of your household, to be a part of your Sunday routine, please do us the solid and like, subscribe, share. It could be this episode, it could be another episode. Also, engage. We love that audience participation. We read the comments live on air. If it's your first time here, welcome. If it's your 100th time, welcome back. And so we love you guys. Thank you so much. We are on YouTube, on Twitch, on Facebook.
Twitter.
Kia, what am I missing?
Twitter.
Twitter. Twitter,
Uh-huh.
yes. So we do this for you guys. So help us out.
Yeah, thank you. We're gonna make current events with Kia real short, just because this topic that we're gonna be talking about is so in depth. We can go on and on and on. So basically, you haven't turned on the news by now. You hear a lot of talk and rumbling about Russia and the Ukraine area. Ukraine basically said that, well, Russia said they're not going to do anything, even though they are on those borders. So basically, um, war with Russia isn't imminent, but Ukraine, in the same breath, is asking for weapons. So it's kind of like, let's just put our ear to the ground just to see what's good, what's going on, because you never can trust certain folk when they say certain things. Last but not least, about current events, which will tie into the subject that we're talking about. Um, Actually, let me backtrack real quick. For Black History Month, because this is Black History Month, we have George Crumb, who happened to be the inventor of potato chips. But it's so funny because he just came out and said that Kate Speck claims that she was the inventor of potato chips. So now there's a big talk right now about who created it. Is this another form of whitewashing? Who knows? I don't know. But that's a whole nother topic within itself. You know, they like to whitewash a lot of stuff.
Ain't no lie.
Vice President Prince, he rebukes what Trump said. He had no right to overturn the election. Speaking of elections, we're going to be talking about voting rights. We're going to be talking about the agenda for Black America, whatever that means. Like I said, this topic for me is just kind of like, here we go again, because we never have the answer. We just kind of just go around the mulberry bush. We have Specs here, we have Liz, and then I had to throw Cash in because this is one of his favorite topics with Liz. And I think I'm gonna be beefing with Specs because Specs.
One of my favorite period.
Well, I think I'm gonna be beefing with Specs because I remember when we had the episode about colorism, we started talking about the VP, Kamala Harris, and I was like, "Where is she at?" He was like, "Oh, no." He was like defending her, and I was like, "Oh, wait." So I remember that Specs. So we're gonna get back into that real quick. But Liz with the glasses. But with that being said, voting rights. Where are we going from here? Do we have a chance? What do you guys think? Is it over? Anybody could jump in.
Gosh, here we go.
Well, yeah.
See what I'm saying? This is a
Well,
conversation.
all right. So here's my thing.
Over. I mean, you don't even have enough Democrats, so it was always over. It was never, you know, and it was always kind of hilarious to me that you would put, you know, John Lewis, you know, like it's so much cachet behind that name that you would put that on a bill and not know for 100% fact that you have the ability to pass that bill. Like if it was just all Democrats voting, you wouldn't be able to pass that bill. You know, make sure if you're gonna put my name on something, make sure you can pass it.
Yeah. He's probably turning over his grave.
Okay, here we go. So, I mean, I don't think that he's turning over in his grave. I think that he's not resting in peace the way he did not live in peace. You know what I mean? And so it's a struggle. The struggle is very, very real. They knew they weren't going to pass it. They think they made some kind of point by taking this. What's the word I'm looking for? This vote just to say they did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. That's why they did it.
we are so far back. I know that you just did your current events, but here in Central Florida, literally, just to tell you where we are as a country, you're talking about more than 100, well, right at about 100 years back, we had neo-Nazis here in Orlando, just outright protesting, pulling people out of their cars, waving their flags.
If I can interject real quick, Liz, just for everybody who doesn't live in Orlando, speaking of those current events, it was so adamant that they were on the corner of a very mixed neighborhood, actually, right close to the University of UCF, and they were protesting. An individual told them to get lost, you're not welcome, and they beat the driver up. The neo-Nazis literally jumped him and put him back in the car. So it's like, wow, they just go ahead, Liz. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, but to say like that's kind of where we are, right? So I mean, and then now we're going a whole step further. So somehow the Nazis and the Holocaust weren't a real thing, all at the same time.
I don't want to talk about Whoopi.
Oh. I'm just saying, listen, right? So
look,
at the same time,
stay on subject. Stay on subject.
Never happened. Well, it goes
voting rights.
Thing, right? So at the same time, the Holocaust never happened. We should not talk about slavery. It hurts white people's feelings. And we shouldn't pass any new voting laws because voting is not a problem. These are all things that are figments of the imagination of the so-called oppressed. And, these people they're moving on because there's nothing to see here. I mean, that's just kind of where we're at. It's all made up. It's a figment of our imagination.
Go ahead, Spence.
Now, all right. So I like that they put John Lewis's name on it because it makes you accountable. So right now, was it Martin Luther King was talking about the moderate white, not the one that Klan or like the neo-Nazi white, but the moderate white. And there's a quote that is floating around YouTube and then TikTok about how he's like, it's the moderate white that's saying, we feel for your struggle, but not right now, because the other white is saying you should not have this right. You're not like me. I'm better than you. But the moderate white, the Democrat moderate white is saying, I feel your struggle. I see your struggle, but it's not right now. Maybe in the future. And that's our biggest obstacle is that moderate white, not the Klan or not what you believe is Republican, but the Democrat that is saying, not right now, because maybe in the future.
Not right now. But that's why. But it's so funny. So the show, I was going to name the show things that we can do to further the African American agenda, but I changed it, as you can clearly see, as the Black agenda, and I changed it because I knew that there would be people who would hit me up and say, well, wait a second. What do you mean African American agenda? Black people. We got the color. We the same. And that's how America operates, right? Anytime we talk about specifically African American, everybody's like, wait, we don't want to hear it. Oh my God. But then again, on the same breath, I do understand anybody that looks my color is thrown in that same category. When the police is beating you down, they're not saying, wait a second, are you Caribbean Black? African Black? What type of Black are you?
Like if you're Nigerian Black, my thing is, I'm not stop. Like, I hate when people do the continent thing. If you can't name a country, it's not a real thing. Stop. It's not a real thing. So country. If you are, because everybody that I know from Africa is they're Nigerian. They're from Ethiopia. They're from a country. You can just say, I'm a world American. Like, what? So just, when I hear that term, I'm like, just stop, yo.
How do you feel about the fact, Cash, that I changed the title from African American agenda to Black agenda? Because I know you got a little something with ADOS.
No, I don't. Look, I mean, yeah. I mean, you know me. I'm ADOS all day. But I will say this, one of the things that ADOS believes is that, America needs a robust Black agenda. You know what I'm saying? For all Black citizens. You know,
Yeah.
no matter where you came from. But you know, ADOS recognizes there's a lot of nuance and you know different groups need or want different things. The same way with you know Hispanics or whatever. You know, we know the Cuban population from Miami is not the same as the Mexican population from LA. They don't vote the same. They don't have the same concerns. They don't have the same you
Representation.
know, background or starting point or whatever. And I would not deny either one of those groups. You know, both of them have, you know, great heritages and, you know, lineages
Right.
and, you know, things that they come from and things that make them, you know, unique, you know, whether cuisine or music or whatever, you know, whereas, yeah, there still is a lot of sameness that they have to celebrate, you know, but, you know, as far as politics, you know, we've just kind of advanced to that point in 2022 where it really doesn't do any sort of group, you know, any service to just kind of like, okay, you know what, we're gonna put all Asians in a bundle and throw you guys here, all blacks, you go here,
But
every
you,
Hispanic,
but you
you
do
go here.
recognize.
Opinion, coach.
Go ahead, Liz. I'll keep quiet for
Right.
you. Go ahead, Liz. Go ahead. Go
So,
ahead.
Specs, you know, you have a special place in my heart, right? But I have to disagree with you. I do. So here's the thing, right? And I fully understand the importance of being able to pinpoint your heritage and your background, your lineage, your genes, and everything else. But also, the more divided we are, the easier we are to conquer, right? And if you notice,
Definitely.
not for nothing, white people, they call themselves white, they call themselves European, they go with Caucasian, but they are one thing, right? You don't really run into them, especially when they start talking about their collective needs, wants, desires, etc., right? You don't really hear them breaking it down to when's the last time you ran into somebody from England talking about, no, 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 I'm from England. You know what I mean? Or, no, 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 I'm Irish,
Oh
or
no, they do.
I'm
Like if anybody that I
Yeah,
met
I
from
mean,
Europe,
all
anybody
the
that I met from
Irish
Europe will always say
Irish.
what
The
country
Irish are
they're
a little
from.
different, right?
you
Yeah.
But
know,
and
the
Everybody that I
Irish
know,
have
and
had
they
their
say what country they're from.
own, you know,
It's not
per
a
se
thing. That's not a
individual
thing.
thing with England. You know what I'm saying? The Irish and their thing with England, you know, is different than you know Italy and you know what they
Yeah,
have
but
going
that's
on.
if
You
you're
know,
looking
like
more
these are very
international.
different
In
sort of
America,
things.
in
right, but
America,
I'm
you
talking
look
I mean,
about
like,
here. European people are European, right?
hmm,
Hispanic people are largely Hispanic. Asian people are largely Asian. Now, if you get specific, they will tell you I'm Chinese or Japanese or whatever it is, but they
Right.
have no problem whatsoever being identified as a collective Asian. Generally speaking, in my experience from speaking with them, and I just don't think that Black people should have an issue with being identified with being either African of African descent or with being Black, right?
I'm
Because the
gonna go.
no,
unique
and I think
they
when
can't
you're
be.
talking about here in America, I think that
Okay. I've never
yes,
had that
you know,
experience though.
there are I think there
So
are proper times to where you say you know Black America, and then there are proper times where you say you know Haitian American. You know what I'm saying? I think
Let
there are proper times where you say Hispanic or Latinx, and I think there's proper times when you say Cuban.
let
So
me go.
yeah,
Wait,
both things are
wait,
when
wait.
you
definitely.
talk to somebody from Asia and you say you're just
Respect.
Asian, huh? I'm sorry.
Let me go to the comments real quick because they're kind of
Okay.
coming in just to say hello to everybody. We get back because this conversation could go on. This conversation.
Mm.
It can. You are fired up
Okay.
already. Oh my God, we're 5 minutes in. So Miss Toya popped in with God Sunday evening, kings and queens. So
Hey,
appreciate
hey.
you coming in. Earl said, hey y'all. Hey Earl.
Earl. What's up,
So
fam?
he said, wow, really? That's where we're going? All right. Earl said, it's current events that the Dallas Cowboys lost. Okay. We got it.
For all those
We got
Dallas
it.
Okay.
funny.
He said, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Z.
Hey.
Miss Annie chimed in with good evening. We got
Mhm.
Victoria saying good evening, everyone. This is good. So we got, fired up already. So
So the title is things that we could do to further the Black agenda. And I know we can go really get stuck on one, conversation, but I want to ask you if November was it the 4th, if I'm not mistaken, 2024 was in the next 3 days, and we were
Uh-huh.
left down to our two candidates. Let's just say Miss Kamala Harris was running or we had good old boy, Make America Great Again. And even if it wasn't him, but somebody to that, let's just say the governor of Florida.
Right.
Yeah, DeSantis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Who are you voting for right at this moment? Knowing that at the moment, a lot of the things that the Biden administration said that they were going to do, they have not been able to accomplish. And then you have DeSantis
Right.
like, hey, we're going to make Florida and the whole country free again. Who you voting for?
Yikes.
Why your face? Okay. I think
It's
I know
not
who
even,
Specs will
like,
vote for.
yeah, because it's not even close. Like, it's like saying, like, he put out a bill. What was the bill that, if they think you're teaching CRT, you can
Yes.
report it. And then, like, the white fragility other bill. So
Yeah.
it's not even an issue. So here's the thing. If that is an issue in your head that you want to go back to, not even the 50s, because the 50s wasn't even that bad.
No.
They want to go back to probably almost damn near right after slavery. So do you want to do that, or get some of your stuff done with a Democrat that's kind of wishy-washy, or right after slavery where they start doing like the prison system? So that's where you are. So if that's your choice and you fumbling that choice, kill yourself.
So your answer would be
kill yourself.
You
Kill yourself.
For Miss Harris, who's been ghost, except for when that infrastructure bill hit. And
Okay.
she was
All right. So let me stop you there. Vice presidents are vice presidents.
Still got a job.
You're supposed to be the president. So this how this goes. So we don't have to go back here again. You have the president. You cannot have two people as president.
This is true.
There's never been that. Okay, so go back and research what's his name? Ronald Reagan, right? And he had George Bush Sr. as his vice president. And when you see his presidency, even though after he had 2 terms, Bush became president after him.
Mm-hmm.
And Bush ran against him and said how much his stuff was wrong. Mm-hmm. But when he became vice president, he was here and Reagan was here. So there was never, and Bush had a different agenda. Let me just finish. Bush had a different agenda, because I remember that, because I was in like, was it 3rd or 6th grade? I remember that stuff. So I'm just saying to you, she could not be more present than the president. That's not how that works.
I'm not disputing what you're saying. I'm not going to dispute what you're saying. But what I will say is, if they have an agenda, the vice president will rally for a certain agenda. You will see, I don't know how many times I see Pence in Florida, and this is while Trump was a president. The vice president does make themselves known. They do talk to certain churches or whatever type of, people they know that will follow them. I'm just saying she been ghost. That's all I'm saying. You can take it how you want to, but she been ghost. I ain't even seen her pearls. Her chucks and her pearls have been missing. She used to walk around with the sisters, throwing up little signs, little sorority and all. You don't even see that no more.
You know what though? I want to interject for a second. I want to take the conversation to a different place.
Okay.
I want to give people something a little bit different, right? Like, what something unique, to this channel. Okay. Right? So let's go back to the original question, to the theme of the show. Kia, if you could repeat it for us, please.
Okay, sir. Basically, if this was November the 4th, 2024, and you had Miss Harris and her.
No, not that question. Not that question. The overall theme of the entire show.
Okay. Things that we can do to further the Black agenda.
Yes. So going from there, which is a very broad question, and which is a more proper question. The other question is a bit narrow, and I think a lot of times with a lot of the discussions that you see on various cable news, on various YouTube and things like that, the discussion is framed within a certain construct and limits our imagination, which is one of the problems with Black people, is the stymie of our political imagination. So if we're going to talk about, okay, black people in general and what needs to happen, what we want to have happen, you know, so let's do something that black people in general, you know, you don't get to see a lot of. Let's get kind of moving with that political imagination. Let's, you know, dare to, for example, and I may have brought this up on the show before, but when white people came to America, there were already political and social constructs established in America by the natives that were already here.
Mhm.
And to a degree, the Europeans, they did learn some things from the natives. And they did, I mean, you're showing up to a completely foreign land and everything like that. You know, you're going to have to take some tutelage, right?
Mhm.
But with the European, which is still, you know, if you think about it, it's a bit of a marvel, you know. They came off of that boat and they got that tutelage and they still in their mind said that we know a better way. We have some things, we have, you know, when you talk about politics, you're talking about how you are going to feed and clothe and shelter and protect and all of these different things, millions of families sometimes, you know. When you talk about United States of America, a country this big, you're talking about millions of families and how you're going to answer those questions for millions of families. And the natives already had their way and their idea on how they answer those questions. And the Europeans said, we have a better way. We have a way that we want. The European did not get off the boat thinking that, you know, maybe I can teach my children how to, you know, Indian enough. And yeah, maybe, you know, maybe my child one day can be chief.
Mhm.
Which is about the limit of our political imagination at this point.
It is indeed.
Is one day my child can be chief.
Mhm.
Okay.
They were bold enough, they had imagination enough to where they completely, wherever they went, pick it up and put it in the trash because I have something better. And to this day, they believe that they have the best way. When you think about ideas of communism, capitalism, democracy, socialism, a lot of these different things, a lot of these different constructs are European constructs. We don't even bother to question or think about if there's even
Royalty, right?
more, you know, that we could possibly come up with. And all these things are is if you had 100 people on the island, you have to decide, okay, how of us 100 people going to eat, sleep, you know, take shifts, protect ourselves from the animals, whatever. You have to come up with those things. That's what
But here's the
governing
question.
yourself is.
But Cash, here's the
Mhm.
question. So you broke it down, right? You took it all
Yeah.
the way back when the European came and seen the natives, right?
Mhm.
But we're so far removed from that. Right now, if we all came together and said, well, one thing we got to do
We
is know your
cannot.
political, you know, no, we got to learn our political structure. We got to know this and get the kids involved, blah, 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 blah. There's so many other little things now.
So
that
here's the question. The question is, what is our perfect? What, you know, if the Europeans are saying, look, we have democracy and capitalism and, you know, this and this and this, and we are saying, you know, you will see a lot on cable news. They will say, never in the history of man have so many people been lifted out of poverty except by capitalism. Capitalism is a system that has fed and clothed and sheltered more people than any other system that any of you guys could ever think of. And we know it's not perfect, but it's better than anything that has ever been thought of in the history of man. Whether that's true or not, that's sort of the assertion at this point. So
Let's try to answer that point. All right. So the one thing that I see that's missing from that is they didn't say what's better. They said, how can I impose this on you and make you think it's better? So this is going to sound wild, but it is what it is.
They genuinely feel it's better.
Right. But wait. So let's think of like you're on a date and what's a date rape? You want to slowly impose your will on somebody. and then tell them that it's going to be okay. That's what they kind of did. So it's not that mine is just better, but I have to abuse you in it and then make you buy into it. That's what they did. So, and
That's
that's what's happening, and that's what's already happened. So I'm going to impose this on you. You don't have a say in it because I know it's better for you. Just
well,
relax.
and to add to
It's going to
that,
happen.
and to add to that, you have things where you're in this situation where wait, what's the lesser of the two evils? I remember going to church one time and they were saying how they were going to some like third world country to go ahead and take these donations and build a school and give homes and shelters and bring them and indoctrinate them into the Christianity. So I was thinking, I was like, well, these people here, they seem to be happy in what they're doing and everything. But at the same time, look what these, missionaries are doing. They're giving schools and this and this. So it's kind of like, do I want to live in this hut and go by what we've been doing? That seems, you're offering gold over here. And that's what it seems like
So you must,
systematically they
but that's what you
do.
do. You massage your truth. What I tell you is true, even though it's painful. Once you get into it, once you see it, it becomes true. That's how some people was it Stockholm syndrome when the victim is
Falls in love with their captor. Right.
yeah, right. So but that's a psychological thing you do over time, and you just like, this is awful, it's not that bad, it's good, this is
Right.
life, I'm loving life, thank you God.
Right.
So you get, but it's a gradual thing. Like take, and the black agenda. So take how white women had no power and they got the power of black women and then said, hey, white men are suppressing us, but so are black men are suppressing you. And they sold that to black women and they said, you know what, you need to be independent, and sold that to black women, even though they didn't believe it. And they sold it to black women. And then when they had a welfare system built for poor whites, some black people got it and then said, okay, the women can do it, but you got to get rid of the men. But you need power from the men because the men are suppressing you, even though black men were suppressing black women.
So
And
wait,
that was sold, and that was sold to them, black agenda, and that was sold to them. So now it's a thing that women like, I'm independent. I want to be, I'm independent of family. I'm independent. Like what? But the people that sold it to you didn't even believe that. So
before
it's what they sell to us, and we have to take back us. We got to take back that voting is a thing. Like when I used to push voting, I used to do voting, not trials. What do you call that? Where you do like go out and get people to register to vote in Baltimore.
yeah.
When I was in Baltimore, yeah, voter registration. It's amazing how many black people don't think voting works and won't vote. And then there's a subject to whoever gets in office.
I think
So
I think
we need to get together. I'm sorry.
Cash,
Go ahead.
the voting thing is
Cash. Let Liz go real quick.
I'm sorry.
So, wow, I feel like a lot's been covered, right? So,
Yeah, I know, right?
But you know what? To Cash's point, what we're suffering from is a lack of imagination, truly and honestly. And I haven't heard it put quite that way. But honestly, when they see something that doesn't work for them, they change it. They don't hesitate. They do, right? And so now, and yes, we do have a lot of power in our vote. I saw that that's a comment from Annie too. And I know Specs was about to kind of go into that. Overall, we don't necessarily exercise that power as much, right? But in the last 3 consecutive elections, we've shown up and they are willing to burn it down and start over if they need to because it's no longer working for them again. So they don't have a lack of creativity, whatever it takes, right? I mean, so you asked the question about DeSantis. You guys didn't pay attention. I mean, I don't know if the nation is paying attention the way that we are here, but this dude floated an idea of having a military that reports solely to him for the state of Florida. They've got some imagination. They've got ways.
he's all on board.
He's all over the place, right? They have imagination. They want to stop teaching history in any format. Basically, they want history to go the way of cursive writing, right? It's just kind of not necessary because unless we know about our past,
let's go to the comments. Let's go to the comments real quick. I'm sorry.
No, you good. Go ahead. Where are we? So Elephant Man said salute family. So one podcast shouting out the other. We appreciate that. And then Victoria said, yikes, great question. I think you were trying to narrow it down to
now who we voting for?
Yeah, all right. We'll circle back. And then Earl says, I've been to Africa. Africans do not view me as African anything.
I've heard that.
Yep.
Interesting.
So,
Very interesting.
And so Annie says, yes, what can we actually do? Like keeping up the vigil to fight for our voting rights. Absolutely. And so she said, we have a lot of power in our vote. We do, which is why they do everything they can at every possible moment to strip it.
But I would say this in regards to the voting, going back to my point of, going more broad, going more bigger, that 30,000-foot view, what are we voting for? So look, first of all, I vote religiously. Off year elections, primaries, dog catcher, it don't matter.
Every one of them, put me down.
I show up, they be looking very surprised. I show up flip flops, you know what I'm saying? Ready to pull the lever. But I think that, so again, when it comes to voting, so you have two sides, right? Where it seems that Black people tend to fall in right now. And one is complete apathy, which is like, look, I'm not voting. It don't matter. It don't count. I'm not following it, whatever. And then you have the other section where it's like blue no matter who. And, you're voting, but you're just voting. There's no real strategy behind the voting. There's no real, it's okay. I'm voting for.
But I think that's the masses.
This person is more liberal or whatever.
Cash, I think when you see vote blue for whoever, I think that's the masses. So it's like, how do we change those masses? When you have a progressive Democrat, when you have somebody kind of thinking out the box, you'll have somebody and they'll be like, wait, you don't want to ruffle up the feathers. And I don't want to sound like, oh, that's the people that are real scared. Like, if it was back in the slavery days, which team would you be on? If I'm trying to escape, would you be still back at the outhouse?
Going back to what Specs was talking about with the moderates, before you can get to those white moderates, please, realize that Black America, I would say at least the last 3, maybe 4 presidential primaries has voted overwhelmingly for the moderate. Biden, Bernie Sanders versus Hillary Clinton.
Yep.
Barack Obama, would be a moderate Democrat. Back to Bill Clinton. The moderate wing of and Hillary versus Bernie, and even Joe Biden versus Bernie, it was 80-20. It wasn't even close. It's not even close. Like we are. If it wasn't for the fact that the Republican Party was completely racist, a lot more Black people. You could probably have 50% of Black people over there in the conservative caucus.
But that's the fact, Jack. That's the fact, Jack.
Is Black people are a lot more conservative and moderate than what we
you think he just said
or want to admit.
But
everything he just said is absolutely true.
To repeat what he just said, are you saying that the Republican Party is racist?
Well, we already know that. Like, that's already old news. But what he's saying is the moderate and how we as Black people are voting for the moderate. But see, you go back. So go back to that, and who's pushing that agenda? Black churches. Go to Black churches and see who they're pushing. They're pushing the moderate, because the moderate is going to those churches and saying blah 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 blah. Because my ex-wife was going to be ex-wife. I used to go to her. I went to her church, and there was a pastor there, and I used to call them slave pastors, and they were pushing the agenda of how pastors were talking about, like, heaven's not here. You don't need to go on vacation. You need to do this. Heaven is after you die. So basically, be loyal to your slave master, and then you'll get, here. When you die, you go to heaven, right? So that's a whole mind fuck agenda. But those same churches push the moderate. Go to a church, like, and I'm not Christian
Oh,
anymore.
absolutely,
But go to a church.
I'm
Go to
glad
a
you
church,
said that.
and they will push that same agenda.
I'm glad you said that, because when you make the statement, and this is why I get bothered about the conversation in general, but we
Here we
gotta
go.
have it, is the fact that when somebody says Republicans are racist, I'm gonna say the same thing goes for Democrats. Like this, they're best friends. They hang out at the same clubs.
Well, here's
Like,
the
wait,
number one
here's the
thing.
difference. The difference is no. The reason why I give respect to the Republicans, because they bold with their shit. They come out saying, look what we finna do. We finna go in, do this, and this. Your Democrat would be like, wait, hold up. I don't want you to see what I'm doing.
No, but there's two types of Democrats now.
Do it
There's
little differently.
there's a progressive. There's a progressive. No. You can't group. You can't group it like that.
Well, look,
Trump and Hillary.
There's a moderate and progressive. There's a moderate and progressive.
if I may, Kia, before we go down this road, the reason why we are having such a disagreement as soon as you bring up the word racist and everything, but let me do the Birdman hands, is that we need a functioning and working definition of the word racism so we can all get on the same page. And that is another one of the big issues when you have discussions, quote unquote, about racism, with whether it's black only spaces or especially mixed race spaces or whatever. We have to have a working definition of racism. Now, my working definition of racism is this: racism is a economic system,
right,
at its root, much like capitalism, socialism, or communism. Racism. So let's say communism. Communism is a system in which the goods and services are in the hands of the government.
Right.
There's very little private ownership. Most of the ownership and everything is in the hands of the government. Socialism is more of a split. Capitalism is, primarily private ownership. Racism is when you divide the ownership and the goods and services, and the power and everything like that based upon race. So you decide to divert all of this money and power and everything to a particular race or particular groups of races, and deny, other groups or whatever, what I'm saying, that same thing. And when we look at it from that sort of prism, then I think we can, better move on to the next stage, which is when you talk about eradicating racism, what does that actually mean?
Right.
So you actually are talking about getting rid of that economic system. And you can see how it manifests itself here in America when you look at the wealth data and everything between black and white people in America.
We're going to jump on what you said, but let Liz jump in. Then we'll go to
the challenge that I would have to that definition, because it's a good definition when we're talking about, the power struggle or the power construct in this country, right? But also you have to broaden the definition of racism, because if I was walking down the street and a person that is even less empowered financially or economically than I am is shouting nasty racist things at myself and my children, by your definition, what are we experiencing? It's not discrimination. They're
Bigotry.
not stopping doing anything.
Bigotry.
That would be called bigotry and prejudice.
But the old definition. So I think I was in sixth grade when I learned the definition of racism and bigotry, and they both are similar. What Cash just explained was racism. So bigotry is I don't like you because of your skin color, race, whatever, right? Racism is that same thing, but economically. So what Cash just said was correct, totally correct.
Let's say it like this. Let's say if every white American from henceforth treated every black person in America cordially. They treat them with, the utmost deference and respect, and, pleases and thank yous, handshakes and smiles.
Yes.
Would racism still exist?
Yes.
And you know why? The economics.
Because of
Right,
yes,
because
this
it's
is true.
systematic.
Because that's what it's
Bigotry is
about.
just like, I don't like you, blah 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 blah.
But let me jump in and say this. So they had posted something. They're trying to talk about boycotting the NFL. I mean, excuse me, and also the Super Bowl. You know, they're saying for players, for white players in the NFL, there's 432 white players. For the people of color, that would be 1,220. And then for head coaches, you have 26. And then for of color, you have 3. And this is from the Institute for Diversity and Ethics in Sports. So when you talk about power, when you talk about racism, when you talk about what can we do on the Black agenda, we were just talking about somebody who mentioned the Dallas Cowboys. So when you have people, when you have a community and they're like, hey, we're watching football, aren't we helping that systemic racism that we're just talking about?
Wait. So I won't go into this rabbit hole. Here's what I'm going to say about that. We need allies. So, because I heard a player talk about this and I agree with him. This cannot be all us, because when we say something that's wrong with us, that's happening to us, and it's just us, it sounds whiny.
It's victimization.
We need to have allies. John Brown, hero, was an abolitionist that was like, slavery is terrible. It should stop. And then he was like, you know what? I'm gonna start killing these slave owners. White man. So until you get allies, your enemy says, because your enemy is strong, has more power than you, will frame you as just being whiny. It has to come from not the moderate, the progressive. Because the moderate's like, well, you really don't, blah blah blah. But the progressive white is saying, you're right, and I'm gonna fight with you. So we need to search them out, because it's not just a us thing. Nobody moves like that.
I mean, but it was never just an us thing, and it should never be just an us thing, right?
Right.
But at the same time, when it comes to us, we need to be better about looking out for our own best interests. For the life of me, I know we're kind of going down the rabbit hole a little bit, but you mentioned the NFL.
Oh, we going all the way down tonight.
We're going all the way down the rabbit hole. Like,
yeah.
I mean, so here's my thing.
I done told people to come watch.
For the life of me, I've never.
I'm hungry. I'm sorry.
How it is that people of color, all people of color, can sit around watching the combine or a draft night and not scream. Like, I kid you not, nothing aggravates me more than them putting you up on the slave block, because that's what it is.
No, the process is definitely eerie. The process is certainly eerie.
They're literally bidding on these black bodies that they know they're sending in.
But that's when we have to hold ourselves accountable. But that's when we hold ourselves accountable, because at the end of the day,
we have parties. We have combine parties and draft night parties, and we're at empty arenas cheering them on as they literally buy up black
but you know what?
Up for their entertainment. This is not cute.
This goes back to what we are going to get to tonight.
Yeah.
Is what are we doing? That is the question, right? What is the goal? What is the purpose?
Easy thing. Stop entertaining shit like that.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. Black people have, for the last 500 years, in America, been playing whack-a-mole with, there's always going to be, technically speaking, no corporations are hiring black people or doing business with black people or whatever. I mean, that's the definition of racism. That's right. Why we have a racist country. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, but what you want to do, anytime you have a problem, it kind of works well the same way. Start with your perfect. First of all, get your view of perfect in mind. Get your goal in mind. Mm-hmm. 200-300 years from now, if we had to say it, what would perfect look like for black people? So what do we, do we want to be more comfortable under our current system? Do we want it to be better under our current system? Do we want a complete overhaul? Do we want a few islands in the Caribbean that we can call our own? We have to start thinking about these larger and bigger questions. We can do whack-a-mole all for another 5,000 years. You know, this police brutality case, oh, this one got shot on that night. It's always going to be another one because we are in an abnormal living situation trying to act like it's normal. How do you normalize the abnormal? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If you
Right.
have a child that's living with someone who's molesting them, you know, you can come up with, you know, there's going to be all kinds of symptoms and stuff presenting itself, and you can come up with all kinds of solutions for those symptoms. But really, unless you're talking big picture, getting that child from up under that molester or whatever, you know,
Right.
you're not really getting to the root of it. You're just going to continue to, you know, well, I had this bad night and I had this happen that evening, and you know, you're going to be always addressing these small little micro. That's why they call it microaggression.
Let me go to the comments real quick.
So Linda said, votes count until the Electoral College votes get counted. This is true.
Yeah.
This is true. And so Annie said, used correctly, our vote can be leveraged in a bargaining tool to see that we reach many of our agendas. I know,
and that's really important because I guess that would go back to like if November 4th was right around the corner. I think that prior to November 4th happening, if we come up with an agenda, maybe Ice Cube comes up with another one or however it may be, somebody, and have it on paper like, hey, Kamala, hey, Biden, y'all want our vote, right? Well, guess what? Do this. Because what's the guy that's in North Carolina? He always slays the vote for the Democrats all the time.
South Carolina. You're talking about Jim Clyburn in South Carolina.
Because whatever he say is like, you know, they get. Yeah.
And so Alistair said Cash is on it. So, and Mark said, I'll have what Cash is having. So,
a little dose of the truth.
And then Mark said, also, Liz just got jumped. Kia, stop letting them jump me.
No,
she over there grabbing the air. I am not going to let them do that. I am not.
So, all right. Annie said, many Black people are racist against their own people. Believe that or not. In slavery, Black people hate being Black and to hate others for being Black. What can we do to finally break that? And let me chime in there too, right? We just talked colorism last week, right? And so that's why you hear me say, and that's why even going back to the whole, so what if we all decide to identify as something from some generations ago from Africa as a continent? At the end of the day, if we could stop being so divided, we could actually try to get together and do something. But we get so caught up on, well, who's lighter, darker, better hair, or from the motherland, from the Caribbean, from which part of the Caribbean, because you can't even say the whole Caribbean, because Haitians are quick to tell you that they're different than Jamaicans, and they're quick to tell you that they're different than, and once you start breaking, the more you shatter, the you're not even fragile, you're just broken. You know what I mean? So
just to take a time out for 5 seconds, a T for time out, how I normally do, because I've been taking little notes, because of course, you know, we do have a little time slot. We may go over a little extra 15 minutes, but still, just to let it know. So, in reference to furthering the Black agenda, of course, we talked about voting, right? However that looks, holding the vote, saying, hey, this is what it is, but voting is something that's still very important. We have to have allies, because at the end of the day, we still are very small in this America, and we need our Hispanic brothers and sisters and our Asians and all the other ones to come through. And we need to hold ourselves accountable, because imagine right now you're listening to this show and you're like, wait a second, you know, this whole auction block thing that they doing when they draft season, this don't look right. But why is my husband over here cheering them on? You know, like pick up your book, educate your spouse on what's going on. Go ahead, Cash.
Yeah, I think the problem and maybe the solution at the same time, though, to all of these questions is, you know, where we just kind of left off at, where, you know, I was asking 200-300 years from now, what does our perfect look like? What is the goal? If you want to talk about, you're going to bring various factions together, you know what I'm saying? People with, because right now, what we kind of live under, what systems rule the day are competitive systems. Capitalism absolutely is a competitive system. Despite what you may see on Disney and things like that, they'll show friends with, oh no, it's not about the money. And look,
Right.
we live in a competitive society. This is not a cooperative. No matter what they say about melting pots and all types of stuff like that, if you don't take anything away tonight, we live in a competitive society, not a cooperative society. In many different factions and groups and things like that, even down to Bloods and Crips and what have not. Look, people are trying to compete for resources and everything. And going back to the Bloods and Crips, when you see that you are able to get truces between these people and stuff, is when you are able to present a larger vision to them. Where you can say, okay, you're going to sacrifice, you're going to give this up, right? But this is what you're going to get in return. And if we're going to tell Black people to vote, if we're going to tell Black people to do anything, if you're going to ask me to do anything, if you're going to ask me to give up any comforts, you know what I'm saying? I started out very rough in life. I part of my life, I grew up in a boys' home, you know what I'm saying? And, all the way to having an MBA and, multiple properties and stuff. And I'm willing to sacrifice all of it, but not for no plan. Until you like, if you come to me and you like, hey, this is what the plan is. This is what we're doing. This is what the goal is. And if you're willing to sacrifice, if you do A, B, C, this is what we're shooting for, then I'll shoot for it with y'all.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this.
Be 40 million scattered people.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think that we are in this
nobody's buying in?
But do you think we're in this hamster wheel? Huh?
There's a delay, so you kind of are talking over each other a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I was saying that, do you think we're in this hamster wheel? And what I mean by that is, so you're saying, hey, come with a plan. If you come with a plan, I'm ready. We doing it. Let's march on. The revolution will not be televised. Yay, all right. But at the same time, though, do I want to hear about a plan if my ribs is touching, if I'm hungry, if I'm this, if I'm that? I mean, right now we talked about social media and the influence it has. We're going to jump on the last little bit. We're going to talk about Whoopi and what's happening with her and her comment that she made.
I was about to say something about that too, but not.
I mean, so here you have a situation, right, where you're saying, hey, I'm doing it, right? We're going to come up with this plan, but in the same breath, just like that, somebody can just cancel you.
But you can't come up with a plan until you first come up with a goal. Get the goal first. Black people don't have a goal.
Do I even want to hear you though? But do I even want to hear you if I'm hungry? If I'm starving, if my health is bad, I don't want to hear about
that is my goal. We have to be able to, and most young people that I talk to, I tell them this bit of advice. You're going to have to be able to figure out how you're going to feed yourself tonight and how you're going to feed yourself for the rest of your life.
Right.
All in the same breath. You don't get to sacrifice one for the other. I understand the immediacy of now. Right. Believe you me, I understand that.
Right.
But you can't if you forsake your future at your own peril. You have to plan for both.
I mean,
it's difficult, and it's a lot more difficult when you don't have the resources and the money and everything. White people do city planning 50 and 100 years out. They have the money and everything to they have the cushion to do that sort of far out planning. And I understand it's hard on us, but we have to be willing to do whatever it takes to get the goal done. And part of it is first coming up with a goal.
You gotta make it. You gotta make it happen. Like you gotta make it happen. Hustle.
When you're talking about the goals, you also have to, when we're talking about making sacrifices, we have to start focusing also on the greater good. A lot of us are way too selfish to ever get there because we don't know anything about the greater good. So even going back to way back when Kia asked the question about, who are we voting for, this person or that person, if I can be completely candid with you guys, being here in Florida, a lot of the shit DeSantis says is awful for us. A lot of things he actually does, I'll be honest with you, works for me. right? And because I happen to know a little bit about Kia Catch situation, it works for them too. So when we go to the ballot box, now I have a decision to make, which is the only reason I kind of paused, right? Because greater good, I'm never going to vote for somebody whose agenda is so bluntly against my greater good. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
However, personal good, in terms of my personal things that I benefit from being under this particular administration in this particular state, or I know in the past, I think he had mentioned or whatever, because she never made more money than she did under Trump. You know what I mean? Or my mother will mention, I mean, I can go there, right? My mother will mention, well, she got her green card under a Republican president. So,
Right.
and now you gotta pay attention to those things. Everybody's talking about what's good for me. So I'll vote
Right.
against our collective best interests and let my children continue to have to go through the struggle that we're constantly going through. Because for me personally, this kind of personally worked out for me this day or this year. You know what I mean? And we have to get better than just being so self-centered all the time. So you know what? If you are, to ask you about the whole sticking, if your ribs are sticking, right? I mean, if you are trying to talk to somebody about the greater good, do yourself a favor and break bread with that person that's hungry while you're trying to sell them on this big vision. Because you telling me from up on high that, well, things are going to be better tomorrow. I'm fat and you're hungry. Yo, if you would just share a little bit of what you have with the person that's hungry, we could all be better. So it's a collective effort all the way.
Yeah, look, and you had, I remember watching a thing on Martin Luther King where, Coretta, they were looking for a house in Atlanta, and he's telling Coretta like this house is too much. You know what I'm saying? Like literally they can afford it, but like I can't be the face and leader of the poorest people in
Right.
America, and I'm out here living like whatever. You know what I'm saying? We
Right.
just went through a situation in this last year where you had groups like BLM and NAACP, taking in hundreds of millions of dollars. NAACP, state, their own records are saying they took in $120 million last year.
What did you do to the
BLM
people?
$90 million. You have BLM, the founders of BLM, the three founders or whatever, they have now basically left BLM and have opened up their own different entities or whatever, and we're still now collecting donations through those places because BLM has gotten so much heat and everything as far as what is or isn't being done with the money, what their directive is. And again, it goes back to the idea of, what a goal kind of helps you to do is you can measure progress within goal. You can hand out wins and losses with the goal. You can keep people honest and keep people, like, look, is this actually helping to achieve that goal or not achieve that goal? Me myself, I would say like this: at present, where I'm kind of at with it now, as far as goal, right? Me being a descendant of American slaves, like I have no inclination to abandon America. And I think that America is if we want justice in the world worldwide, America is that starting place. If we do not get justice in America, if we do not fix America, we will not fix the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of just like that. And when I say fix, I'm talking about a place where you can have people of multiple ethnicities and racial backgrounds and this, that, and the third, and we are able to govern and live side by side in a more cooperative sense. Because if we are not able to take this group of people in this country and live cooperatively here, we will not cooperate with each other around the world. And my feeling is that we need in this world to move from competitive systems to cooperative systems. There's no reason, there's so many resources and everything in this world. There's so much abundance that we've been given on this planet. There's no reason for us to be in competition with each other. You know,
Yes.
we as Black people really need to kind of set that marker that, look, this was the old, you know, isms and everything like that. These were the old systems that you guys have set up, but we know something better. The same way they came through to these native populations and they said, we have something better. We have some new ideas. We have some things that will work better than your thing. We need to even, you can't even find Black people who would disagree with capitalism because they so scared that what it would say about them or something like because when racism is taught, it's not just taught to white people, right? We all go to the same schools. We all get the same education.
Mm-hmm.
But we need that imagination. We need to go.
Let me go to the comments. Let me go to the comments.
So Tashia said, it is easier for those in power to polarize people when you create environments of competition instead of collaboration. It's a very intentional method of control. Correct. And so he said, good point, Liz. That's Underworld Society. And Mark Logan said, we need a dream first, then a plan, followed by the will. We keep getting stymied by the in-between. Absolutely.
Yeah. So sad.
Mark said, everything breaks down through the simple differences as opposed to building through similarities. Absolutely. And then Annie said, 90% of the people are called minorities and fight over 10% or less of the capital. The goal of the 10% has been to stop the 90% from coming together as a majority and going after the 90%. You can say that again. And he said, we must, all caps, must come together. We must. Right? Tashia said, as long as capitalism is the law of the land, America will never be fixed. We will always remain a country where profit means more than the people.
Right.
And then last
Underworld Society, and I think this is the first time we're getting comments from Underworld Society. So welcome to the family. And they chimed in with a beautiful show. I'll be back again. Come back and share and subscribe and everything. We appreciate
so
it.
Just to, because we're wrapping it up, kind of in that direction. But just to let you guys know, if you haven't heard already, so Whoopi Goldberg, who we know for many, many years as an actress and a comedian, she stars on The View, the talk show. She made a comment, and she was talking about the Holocaust. And basically, she was saying the Holocaust is not about race; it's about inhumanity to a man. And she went on to explain about what that meant.
Right.
I was surprised to see how many people went on her attack. Also, I was also surprised to see a lot of white people defend her. They said, well, wait a second. Jewish is not a color. It's not a race. It's a religion.
White Jewish people defended her.
Huh?
A lot of white Jewish people defended her. Not just white, but Jewish people.
Okay, yeah. But at the same time, even though they were coming to her defense, because they suspended Whoopi Goldberg, if you guys didn't know, for 2 weeks. The big wigs, the ones who have the power, of course, are the ones who may say she may not come back on the show. They're the ones who said she needed a lesson. It's interesting because what she was trying to say was basically, if I'm standing next to my Jewish counterpart, before they could find out who's Jewish or not, they would have attacked me, so right. It wasn't about the color of the skin. Now, how do you guys feel about that statement that she made? Are you agreement, or are you just saying, hey, I'd rather not talk about it? I don't want powers to be to come on me.
She was 100% correct. What happened was she offended some Jewish people that had power, because if you talk to, and I've talked to and heard from a lot of Jewish people that I know, they weren't offended because it was a true statement. Because it's like so basically she said this: they're all white, but their religion is Jewish, and then her counterparts were trying to say Jewish people are defined by their oppressor. And that's not how you define. You don't define people by their oppressor. You define people by who they are. So Jewish people, especially the ones you're talking about, are all Europeans. What happened was the Germans saw them as a race and want to kill them as a race. They're not a race. It's a religion. So, but the people that had power said, "Oh well," so they use the narrative because this is what happens. Your enemy, when your enemy can change your narrative, they will control you. So what they said was, "Oh well, since a Nazi says like this, then it's like this." So you telling me now that Jewish people define themselves on how the Nazis saw them? Get the fuck out of here. So, but that's people that empower. Excuse my language, but that's what it was like because they're not a race. It's not a. It's a religion. You could be Jewish, like you could be Catholic, and then you can be like, I don't want to do that no more.
Not quite. Not quite.
It is what it is. I'm black. I cannot not be black. I know Jewish people that aren't Jewish anymore. I know Catholics that aren't Catholic anymore. So
My mother was raised a
you can walk away from your religion.
Yeah.
You can walk away from your religion. You can walk away from a belief system. You can walk away from that. You can say
a little more than a religion. It's a lot more than a religion. It's a bloodline.
It's not.
It's a culture. It is.
It's a culture, but it's still a belief system.
But
you cannot.
But
you telling me? So are you telling me that somebody that was born right? So cause I need to call him when I'm finished with you. So you telling me that somebody that was born with a Jewish upbringing can and then say I'm not Jewish anymore or not Jewish anymore?
They may not practice the faith anymore, but they are in fact still Jewish.
No,
Okay.
but what I'm trying to say,
I'll call them and let them know.
Liz, if you go to an application, they say, well, hey, what is your ethnicity? You got black, Hispanic, white, Hispanic, non-white, Asian, Pacific Asian. You don't never see the word Jewish. All you see is white.
I would say this in regards to the whole situation. You know what I'm saying? I think Whoopi, you know, without a compass, kind of find herself, you know, stumbling and bumbling, you know what I'm saying, around this whole issue or whatever, because she should never really been in the issue. I tell my kids like this: there are fights that are worth fighting,
right,
even if you lose. And there are fights that are not worth fighting,
right,
even if you win.
You ain't lying.
Okay.
And you need to be able to tell the difference between
Let me
the
hear
two.
what Liz got to
Yeah,
say. Let me
yeah,
Because
yeah.
Everything with that.
hold on, real deal question. If Whoopi was right, would it matter? What is
It does matter.
Right, right. Like sometimes just
Wait,
it's like shut up. Like sometimes you need to be like this. All right, man.
What
I'm done.
was you trying to prove? What was you trying to do with this?
Yeah.
What's that, Liz?
The whole reason that this was coming up on the show was because they had this whole list of books that we're now banning because that's the country we've gotten to, right? So the issue came up because of that mouse book that I think it was in Tennessee that they want to remove from the curriculum.
Yeah.
That is a problem for us too, because while they're at it, they're also eradicating the history of slavery. They're also eradicating the history of slave owners. They're also eradicating. So when you start saying that, you know, well, why would we care if they stop teaching about the Holocaust? The Holocaust wasn't our issue. We care when they stop teaching history. So she was wading into it because what she was saying is the issue that, you know, with the Holocaust was just crimes against humans committing crimes against humans and humanity, and that is a true statement, right? Whether or not she wasn't necessarily saying that, you know, it's not about the Jews. That's not necessarily what her issue was. And by the way, and I'm surprised that Whoopi herself, as she went out on her apology tour, didn't bring up. Let me tell you something. Let them catch a black person and see if they weren't in the same concentration camps. They also were after homosexuals. They were also after people, children with mental retardations or any type of illness that made them less than perfect. None of that falls into the category of it being racist. So you cannot say that the Holocaust was specifically a racist issue because it was not specifically a racist issue. It was an issue of white supremacy. That's where it came into race, but it had nothing. It wasn't, the race issue wasn't against specifically the Jews. They were the most affected because of the area that it started in. But if you had given those Nazis a chance to get just a little bit further, they were going after Africa, Asia.
But this goes back to what you were saying, Liz, on how, you know, the type of arguments or whatever they kind of get us caught up in or whatever, or going with, and you know. Really, it probably needs to be even a much bigger, you know, discussion or argument or whatever, other than, you know, because like we were saying, there's always going to be these micro things, right? They're banning this book, they're banning that book, they're doing this thing, they just shot somebody, you know, and I think we have to end up, you know, taking it just to a much higher level. And you know, how do we cure this whole thing overall? Like if you have an 800-pound person, you can go on for however long, you know, well, hey, the person got a crushed ankle, or the person got this, or the person got hives. Like, I wouldn't be surprised by anything that you tell me an 800-pound person got, because a person ain't supposed to be 800 pounds. So it wouldn't surprise me one bit, whatever it is that you tell me. So if we're not talking about getting this person not to be 800 pounds, what are we really talking about?
No, for real.
So let's go to the comments real quick. Oh my goodness, Cash.
Just said she's speaking about Whoopi. She spoke 100% the truth. White Jewish people reap the privileges of being white first. And I think she's continuing the comment. And Jewish people realize that when they abandoned the civil rights movement. So miss me with the fragility. Yeah, right. And then Mark Logan says she was absolutely right, but her words were socially unacceptable. It's a matter of depth perception. Whoopi shouldn't have said anything. Her words were too deep for shallow ears.
You know what's interesting? What got me? What got me? And this will be one of the last little things to talk about, is when we, as a society, a culture, or whatever, express or talk about anything. And I told Cash this: if we talk about racism or what we should have and what's not working right, we will get the comments of "please get over it. It happened about 500 years ago," and this and this. And this and this. Can you stop whining, please? But as soon as you say anything that starts with the letter J and end with the letter H, that is that act. When Nick Cannon made his comment about, you know, the Jews, he was also on an apology tour, and he had to kiss some major ass. Now he has his own talk show, so we don't know what ass he's kissing. But I mean, because they do control a lot of the wealth and power in America, you know, you can really see you had to walk on those eggshells. You know, I definitely agree with Mark said in reference to just her comments falling on, you know, shallow ears, you know. And then also with Cash is like, you know, is she really in the game? So yeah, Whoopi could have been talking about books that are going to be, not accepted in the schools anymore. But I never felt that Whoopi was trying to hold us down. We got some more comments that just came in.
And Sashia said to Mark, right, we are not here to be comfortable, and nothing gets fixed by being complacent. She should have said what she said and let them deal with it in therapy. Absolutely. Right? And now, oh my goodness, so Mark now responded. If she ended up apologizing, then why say it? I'm just saying. And I have to agree with Tashia and Mark in that point, right? Because you know what she said, period. If you said, now let's take that and flip it on its head, right? If somebody said, you know what, slavery is not just a race issue, it's an issue about humans being inhuman to other humans, we should accept that, because at the end of the day, slavery also existed in Africa amongst Africans, and there were white slaves over here, right? Slavery itself is a problem. So somebody saying slavery is a problem, you know, clearly there's a group of people that were more affected by it than everybody else was, and we should acknowledge that too. But just saying that slavery is a problem is it's not something to go out and apologize for because you said it. You said it and you meant it. When those other people say what they say, they can say anything they want to. They can talk about grabbing pussies publicly and everything, and you'll never get an apology. Why are we always so quick to apologize? And we ain't even wrong. Like, what's going on? So
what's that reward and punishment? You know, when you know, the same way you train a dog, right? With reward and punishment. You know, you got the treats in one hand and the newspaper in the other. And even a dog figures out very quickly what behaviors they need and don't need to be doing. And even on a subconscious level, you know, you ring a bell and, you know, they come running, or, you know, it's very just, you know, into our DNA, that whole reward and punishment thing. And then, you know, if you're going to leave this group with the ability to reward and punish everybody, then you're going to leave them with the ability to control everybody.
So before we go to last words with Liz, and then we do the last bit of comments, I just want to say I've been writing. So, you know, just to kind of have some type of bullet point plan on to further the Black agenda. Of course, we got to do the voting. We have to have the allies that we talked about holding each other accountable. You got to be able to play the game of Monopoly in this capitalistic world that we're living in. So get your money up. With that being said, you might have to sacrifice. So please, I don't want to hear it. Not in 2022. I don't want to do this job because you need a job. Get a job. And then with that being said, being selfless, right? Being able to make that sacrifice, and then when you make that sacrifice, if you have enough, being able to give to your fellow sister, your brother, and help the person in need. And then you also have to prep, because if you haven't seen, like he said, those little issues that are coming up, we're still going to have police brutality. We're still going to have this and this and all different types of things going on. So we have to be able to do this and do it wisely. The last comment, and then we'll go with the last words of Liz.
Mark says, she said what she said, and then she said sorry. Sorry means, by definition, I shouldn't have whatever. She should have stood by it or not stepped up. Then she got set up and she was told to apologize, then suspended. Why? Because saying you're sorry says you did something wrong. That's exactly it. That's the setup. That's the okie doke.
Yeah.
And then another one just came in real quick. You got Miss Annie said, look, don't jump me now, but I believe Hitler hated and went after everyone who wasn't white and German with blonde hair and blue eyes, like his army of sons. It didn't matter the race or religion. Right. And then Tashia says, I'm sorry, I'm ahead of you, Kia. She says, yeah, so at Mark, because celebrities are bought and you can't piss off white America and confront them on their bull without your coin being impacted. I mean, and that's the same thing.
Yeah,
right?
That's what happened
when apologized and still damn near lost her job. The next dude never apologized and became freaking president, right? Those are the issues. He said, he just chimed in, then choose your battles wisely. I'm with, I think that she should.
I agree with both.
I think she should have stuck with it, right? So, I know Mark is saying, well, then you shouldn't have said it. She should have said it because, again, once they start wiping out those books, it literally came from the Holocaust, that whole saying, and I never say it verbatim. But, first they came for this guy and I said nothing. They came for that guy and I said nothing. And they came for me and there was no one left. That's exactly it. Right. So if we start letting them remove books about this part of history and that part of history, don't say nothing when they start removing us from history too, because that is the end game.
Right.
Wait. So before we go with last word with Liz, Cash, do you have any final words before we go with last words with Liz?
Sure, yeah. My whole point, tonight, what I wanted people to take away, like I said, you don't get it a lot of places, but I wanted to, give people a thorough breakdown of, what the problem is and ultimately what the solution is. Me, myself, I think that, Black people in America, that this is ground zero. This is where this is the capital. This is where the fight has to take place. And if we can make this place into a just society where we have equitable distribution of resources, where you look at the statistics and you don't see statistically racial numbers don't jump out at you. You don't see this group is incarcerated more. You don't see that this group is a lot more poor, those type of things. That's how that racism or whatever has been eradicated, and that you've replaced it with a more justice-based system. How do you do that? At some point you are going to have to compel somebody to do something, meaning you're going to have to make somebody do something. And honestly, 40 million Black people in America, we have enough Black people in America to make America do what America needs to do. Honestly speaking, Black people just really aren't there. We've been robbed of much of our imagination. And we don't even at this point we're like the children. We don't even have to worry about what a dollar is or anything like that or whatever, because the parents take care of all the hard and important questions.
I'm gonna quote my brother Charles Haskins, who's been on the show numerous times and always leaves a impression when he does. Stop being so fucking scared and do what the fuck you gotta do.
Lord.
If you come up with a plan, I mean, it's 40 million black people in America. If you had 3 million black people in America, just go set up shop in DC and say, we're not leaving DC until we get what we want. You know, like 40 million black people have the ability to shut down America in its entirety. If we just like, you know what, we're not going to school, we're not going to work, we're not paying rent, we're not going along with any of this anymore. We quit. This game of Monopoly, we quit. You've cheated so much, and you know what? You have two options. We can kind of redistribute, you know, some of all this money and property or whatever and do a more fair thing where now we can actually all feel like we're in the spirit of competition, or you can not have America. And unless you are willing to say that, I mean, you've seen January 6th, 2021, what they're willing to do. You've seen in the Civil War what they're willing to do. If you're not willing to say that, look, you can have this vision or you can have nothing. Mm-hmm. If you're not willing to say that, then you get everything you deserve. And you know, in the meantime, I'll be over here chilling.
Go ahead, Liz. Last words with Liz.
So, no, sorry. We definitely cut Specs out of his last thoughts there. So,
yeah.
Real quick, because we have a million comments to get through, and I don't want to leave them hanging, right? And so, I'm saying she just shouldn't have gone. She shouldn't have apologized. And then Tashia responded, I agree with you. Unless you're prepared to double down, just stay quiet and leave it to folks like me who don't give a damn about your fragility. And then Underworld Society said they've been trying to get Whoopi off the air for years. And Mark said, I'm not Whoopi. I can say it and stand by it. LOL. You know, and he said, well, my loving, caring black people, I truly enjoyed it tonight. Keep hope alive. Can't wait till next week. And then Tashia said 40 million people with the highest collective buying power. We could easily say F y'all if we wanted to. We could. We just have to get it together. Right? And so coming back to just kind of last words with Liz. So you guys already know, Grown Honest Concepts. We are out here. We are trying to give away this money. So it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier in the show. It is not about my personal interest. Last year, I made zero profit whatsoever towards my Black Future Month initiative. Cash is wearing the Black Future Month shirt. I chose to throw another Grown Honest Concept design. It says voter suppression is wrong. On the back of it, it says sore loser. If you have to cheat to win, you are not a worthy adversary. Right? And so my designs are a little in your face. Some of them are a little, you know, softer for those of you that need a gentle touch. But please go to the website. It's grownhonestconcepts.com. Every single design on there is going to go towards books for a college student that we will give away later this year. If you would, also, if you know a deserving college student, I want to give them that money. So please, please, please hit me up. You can hit us up on Unfiltered and Intentional. You can get to me directly. There's all kinds of ways to get in touch with me. So please do. The reason I wore this shirt today is just kind of in support of Pamela Moses, where, you know, they have many, many ways that they go through suppressing the vote. And she is the sister that they have just incarcerated for 6 years for registering to vote. You know, I mean, for registering, she got as many clearances. Her probation officer told her she was clear. The actual election board told her she was clear, and still somehow they gave her 6 years for registering. Everybody else that voted fraudulently were so far in that last election were found guilty because they did it knowingly. They voted on behalf of dead relatives, and they got the worst case was 3 days. Best case, most of them just got a little probation. She's in jail for 6 years, guys. We got to do better. We have got to unite.
We got to get it from the root, man.
The struggle is real, but we are built for the challenge. So let's do that, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Always.
Thank you. Yes.
We love you.
And I want to say one last thing before we go. Next week, in honor of Valentine's Day, because on the 13th is next week, right? Yeah. The 13th is next week. We're going to have a conversation about open relationships, so it will definitely be good.
Am I coming back?
No, you're not going to be on this show, Cash. We're going to be talking to people who actually live it and just teaching us, you know, all about it. But yes, we're going to be talking about those open relationships.
It's something. There's
I'll be
something.
tuning in at least.
Oh yes, tune in. Thank you. But have a great night, guys. Bye.
Bye.